This is a Stipple Wild video, so if you don't have Stipple Wild, then whatever. Um, all right, so I'm gonna go over the depth map, which is how I made this 3D beveled looking Stipple logo. It was just added in mid-August 2020. I'm gonna launch Stipple. I'm gonna hit new drawing. Keep everything as is. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna click paint, and I'm gonna say, because this is a little bit confusing, you might want to just follow along. Maybe watch this once. I'll try to keep it short, and then just use these exact settings until you kind of figure out what's going on. It is a little bit confusing. Um, okay, so I'm gonna go to my image menu. I'm gonna go to Effect One. I'm gonna turn it on, and I'll switch the drop down to Depth Map. So next, I'm going to go to dot shape. I'll make it about that big. And oh, okay. So now on brush and dot, you're going to see that depth. Now, if the depth map is not on, you'll see the depth is blacked out and you can't use it. Depth is on. You'll see. Oh, you can use it. Okay. So I'm gonna put in -20. So in Stipple, negative is up, positive is down. As far as the Y, as far as your up and down goes, in X, your left and right. Left is zero, and right is just more positive. Is just so you'll always be entering a positive value into X. Well, not always, but anyway. All right, so I'm gonna go to Pix Gap, and I'm gonna do 5. We'll keep match on, and hopefully this won't take. Actually, let's go to the slider. I'm gonna pull this all the way to the left, and now what's gonna happen is with the what the depth map is doing is it's offsetting the placement of the dot based on the darkness or lightness of the source image. So whatever image is loaded into our depth channel, right? Uh, so let's just go ahead and give this a shot. It's going to take a little while, not too long, but you see right here. So now you can see that what was black is popped up, and relatively speaking, what was light is pushed down. So you end up with a new way to make. Let's put this at well, anyway, you end up with a new way to make wavy stuff, right? But this is pretty cool because it is affected by the source image itself, not just sine waves. And so if I turn this value, this -20, so now if I turn this to +20, now everything that is black is going to get pushed down. I should have hit delete first, so I'm going to do that again. So now everything that is black is getting pushed down. If I were to flip this slider and hit fill, everything that is white is now getting pushed down, which looks a lot like how it looked originally when the black was up, right? So, this is it gets kind of weird just because you can have positive and negative values. And if I put in a X value, say I put in an X value of 20, and then hit go, you'll see that now it's at an angle. And if you increase decrease in pixel gap, if you put in a lower number, you're going to get more dots on the screen. However, I don't really want to wait for it to finish. Maybe I will. And you'll find that you can get smoother and smoother results if you use more pixels. But the processing time can really be like over a minute. I've had something take over 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and it comes out really smooth. But it is just so time consuming that I usually do a lot of testing at a lower pix gap value before I go in and put the pix gap at like 1. Or you can also put the column. Yeah, well, whatever. There's tricks to get more and more dots on the screen, but then it just takes longer and longer. Anyway, I think the other question people would have is, what does the curve mean? Push, pull, and flat. Um, this has to do with the way that the way that give me 1 second, set this up, and I'll explain what I'm trying to say. So basically, the way that the I'll get it out. Just give me a second. I'm not starting this video over because I was stuttering too much. Not this one. Okay, so now we have a gradient, and we can kind of take a look at exactly what's going on here. So now, if I put the black to the right, and then hit go, one thing to know about the depth, this is all based on pixels, which is all based on the size of your screen. So whereas this screen right here has big pixels because it's a chunky 720 DPI device, so 100 is a big distance on my screen. 100 might not be as big of a distance on your screen if you're using a high def device. Okay, so now you can see how these lines curve upwards. So they start, let me put screen lock on. So they start over here on the left, and then it's a curve to the right up at the top. Now that's being determined by this push value. And now if I turn this to pull, you'll see that it goes the opposite way. Now the lines curve, we could call this convex, as opposed to before where it was concave. Now if I go and choose flat, it's just a straight line. So this isn't always going to have a big impact. By default, it's set to push, and I just found that push was kind of the most attractive option of the three by default. However, sometimes I switch it up, and it is cool to see what they do. If I were to describe it, I'd say that push is kind of like an inflated balloon. Pull is kind of like when you pull up on a sheet and how it kind of tents up. And flat is more of a pyramid or a ramp or just a basic linear progression, a linear increase. Other than that, I understand the depth map is kind of confusing. Play around with it. Just know that this slider right here, this is depth on it. It gets turned on when this checkbox, this is depth, is on. You'll see that now depth is off. And you'll also see that our depth controls are blacked out. But if we go and put depth back on, depth controls are back. And what am I looking for? The depth slider is also back. Another thing that's kind of cool is you can kind of make flat spots with the slider itself by adjusting where the slider cutoff goes. So you can do some cool stuff with that. Yeah, check it out. See what you can do. Ask me questions if you have any.